All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course, where I see about 150 viewers already waiting and chat is working. Always a good indicator. What the 11? Yay, me first. H. Jennifer L88 buy Styx's new erotic fiction. Not quite an erotic fiction, but yeah, you should definitely buy Orange Man Big Volume 2. Some reviews have already come in. Ren Optic, welcome. I've been waiting for you. And Derek B52 says, howdy and hail, all. We've got lots to talk about today, but first we're going to make sure that we're live. Yes, indeed, we are live. Rumble shooting out of the gate there. Almost 200 people watching already. Anyway, we're going to be talking about the Hunter Biden scandal. Not the art scandal we talked about this morning, though. The one that involves Joe Biden more explicitly and directly. That's an extreme scandal, and it's one of 7 or 8 at this point, I think. We've got to tally up the number of Biden scandals as well as the number of Biden's violations of the Constitution and the number of Biden falls and get like a definitive list of that going. If I can dig out that much info, I would create a book on that topic too. We're also going to be talking about the left and fortification for 2024. They will be trying that. I think that that's a no-brainer. Part of it has to do with mail-in ballots. Part of it has to do with, well, there was just a MERS case over in Abu Dhabi or someplace like that. They'll probably try to play that up too. Also, Mitt Romney's severest TDS. Yes, Mitt Romney decided to write an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal. We will be talking at length about that one, and also the concept of a world ID, among other things. Also got, what else? Yeah, there was a Montana bear attack. I'm going to give a few thoughts about that and bear survival, which a lot of people seem confused about. The upcoming possible child tax credit reform. It's actually being pioneered by the GOP. I actually endorse this. I think that it's a good idea. And of course, the no labelers with Joe Manchin. 87 Sparker for the clink. Lots of clinking and clanking going on all the time. All day long. I'm going to brew coffee later, actually. It's kind of one of those dark, slightly cool days, which is for literally the end of July. It's uncharacteristically cool right now. That's why I've got a long sleeve on. Kind of enjoying it. I'm McLovin' it. We got all sorts of shit to talk about today. We'll start right in. Hunter Biden put then VP Dad Joe on the phone with business associates at least 24 times. Ex-partner Devin Archer to testify. Yes, the former business partner, actually, of the Bidens is going to give testimony on this particular topic. I'm just going to read a little bit of this verbatim. Hunter Biden would dial in his father, then Vice President Joe Biden, on speakerphone into meetings with his overseas business partners, which is a no-no. According to testimony expected before Congress this week from Devin Archer, the first son's former best friend. Archer, 48, who is facing jail for his role in a $60 million bond fraud, is scheduled to testify to the House Oversight Committee about meetings he witnessed that were attended by Joe Biden, either in person or via speakerphone, when Hunter would call his father and introduce him to foreign business partners or prospective investors. Now, once again, you've got one of two possibilities here. Archer is facing jail time for bond fraud. We can assume, well, technically there are 3 possibilities. It's identical to the Gal Luft story. Archer is telling the truth, and the Bidens are attempting to cover ass by persecuting somebody for fraudulent fraud charges in order to shut him up. Or Archer is lying, and the Bidens are doing the right thing because Archer was guilty of fraud. Or the third route, which is in Gal Luft's case the most likely, and probably here too, Devin Archer did commit fraud, but he's also telling the truth about Hunter Biden. And what's happening, what we're seeing over and over again, is that people who thought that they would be covered, they thought they wouldn't face charges because, hey, I'm friends with Hunter Biden. Hey, I'm friends with Joe. Hey, I'm friends with the FBI director or something like that, are getting charged anyway, and they're singing. They are doing their little bird song. And that's what I think is probably happening here. I believe the claim, because it fits in with what we know about the Bidens. I mean, it's not like the concept of Joe hopping on calls or meeting with people that he claimed he never met with is not something we have evidence of. We do. Now, we have proof in some of these cases. We have actual photographic evidence of some of these in-person meetings. So It would be strange if he wasn't willing to do the same thing over a speakerphone call. And so I believe Devon Archer. I also believe he probably committed bond fraud and will go to jail for that. In the end, that's quite fortuitous for the Biden administration, because the Biden administration can do what it's doing with Gal Luft and with the IRS whistleblower and say, well, they're not reliable whistleblowers at all. They've been, because they're under charge of some sort, or they've been fired from their job, as the IRS whistleblower, I believe, was. And so you shouldn't listen to them. The legacy media will run with that same line, that same tired line we've heard 3 or 4 times before. And a lot of people get cognitive dissonance and be incapable of understanding that Devon Archer could have fucked up and relied on the system to cover ass. And when he realized that it wasn't going to cover his ass, that's when he decided to tell his story. President Irina Vladimirovna Putina. The people getting upset over the Twitter logo change have the easiest lives on earth. Imagine getting that upset over a logo change. They need to get a life. Yeah, I'm not upset over it. I think it could go either way as far as helping or hurting the site. But I don't think that it collapses it. It's only, major recent competitor has already flatlined, which is Threads. The only main competitor that ever attained equilibrium was Gab. So I don't think that they have much competition. That Manx guy, $2, no comment. Thank you very much. Sparky, greetings, fearless leader Sticks. Thank you very much as well. Yeah, the whole X thing is funny. Twitter is now in exile, you could say. So as far as the new allegations with regards to Joe and Hunter, they directly relate to Hunter and indirectly to Joe. Hey, I'm trying to woo this investor. I'm going to get dad on the call. He was VP at the time. This probably violates the law. If Joe Biden in the conversations that he had, if it was just, hey, yeah, this is Joe Biden. Yeah, good day. Hope you're well. That's dubious. It's obviously an insinuation by Hunter Biden. Hey, this is why you should invest with me. Look, I can get you in touch with the vice president instantaneously. That's technically on Hunter Biden. If there was anything further than that, so Joe strongly recommends you invest. Hey, come on, man. As vice president, I've got the skinny on this company's inner workings because, they're filing 1 million bureaucratic forms every single day because that's the economy we live in. That would actually violate U.S. law. It would be a felony. But nothing will be done about it in the end. Joe Biden is facing impeachment potentially now, although we'll be talking tomorrow about the slow walking of this process by Kevin McCarthy. Oh, I'm getting closer to forming an impeachment inquiry. Well, will you hurry up, shit, or get off the pot? That's what I would advise you. But of course, he's a deep stater, so I don't think that the intent is actually there to expedite that process unless Trump happens to get jailed or something like that. Nick Santini. Hey, Sticks, early in the morning in the Sunshine State. Been at the grind, getting as many hours as possible. Question, do you believe left-leaning women are more likely to cheat than right-leaning? I have no clue, actually. I'm not a woman, so, I think people can, in the comments, people can weigh in with their opinions. In my opinion, there's probably not a significant connection, but... just a sec here. What the hell is happening over here? No. Okay. Yeah. Can you ring your dad? While they were sitting outside the bar, this is hilarious. Vadim Pozarsky, senior Burisma executive, phoned to ask where they were because Burisma's owner, Mykola Zlochevsky, needed to speak to Hunter urgently. Can you ring your dad? Soon afterward, the 2 Ukrainians joined Hunter and Archer at the Four Seasons bar. And Porzyarsky asked Hunter, can you ring your dad? At the time, it was early afternoon, Friday in Washington, D.C. Hunter then called his father, put him on speaker, placed the phone on the table, and introduced the Ukrainians to Joe Biden by name as Nikolai and Vadim. Vadim from Fallout 4, of course. He also said words to the effect that the Burisma bigwigs need our support. VP Biden greeted the Ukrainians, but spoke only in vague pleasantries. Hint, hint. During the short call and in other such interactions with Hunter's overseas business partners, Archer is expected to testify. So yeah, it was more like an insinuation situation. Hey, I'm the VP. Yeah, I'm Joe. Hi. Hi, Vadim. Hello. Yes, Hunter is capable of summoning me at a moment's notice. Fucking invest with him. it's mafioso style. It's just skirts the very edge of the law without Biden having necessarily broken any law. But everyone knows what the insinuation is. Yes, Joe can get involved at a moment's notice if something goes wrong. If you need something, you can call the big guy. And for his standard 10%, or maybe in Vadim's case, there's a markup. He has to give 15. Then Hunter will get him on the line and start a war or something. Aussie's Robots, Morning Sticks. Did you see the 2009 DHS document floating on X calling people identifying as patriots, protesting open borders, trade agreements, etc., potential terrorists and or white supremacists? I did see that, yes. Internal memo that was talking about how people who are into the uber patriotism, also militia, people who appreciate the concept of the militia were on that list, survivalists and other groups. I did see that. Wasted Bonehead on Rumble says, Clank, thank you very much. Sigil Stone, Morning Sticks, fellow Lord Miles Rutledge and all. Thoughts on the recent post to his Twitter, or Xer, saying he's alive and the Taliban is negotiating with Britain for his release. I have not seen that. I haven't been following that case, although I do follow him on Twitter. Trip Boom says, Clank as well. There's a lot of clanking going on. President Irina Vladimirovna Putin. Speaking of Fallout 4, I once again have to completely restart my playthrough because the Institute's greatest weapon is crashing the game when I'm trying to help the Brotherhood of Steel in Boston. Interesting. Have you downloaded any mods? Get the unofficial Fallout 4 patch off of Nexus, actually. And that clears up a shit ton of glitches and tweaks the game in a good way. Joe Hoffman, good morning, Senor Sticks and fellow clankers. Let's see. Yeah, the next news story. The American Conservative. The left's election fortification in 2024. Democrats used COVID as an excuse to transform our elections. They are still at it. Fact check, true. That was used as the impetus for mass mail-in voting and other honk-honk, totally acceptable things that were never deemed necessary before during epidemics. But of course, everyone was afraid. And people did demand, I hate to blame the public, but the public did demand draconian action at the time. This is why I don't jump down Trump's throat over the international travel ban. When it first was instituted, travel restrictions, bans from and to China, etc., for U.S. nationals, I stated this. This was years ago. It wouldn't do anything, but the public demanded it, and it was a good idea strategically, because ultimately, in the end, there is nothing that the government could do to stop the pandemic from existing. And they had no choice, really. The public demanded it. People would have rioted, probably, if they hadn't done what they did. Same with the state of emergency, allowing state governors to declare lockdowns and so forth. It's not Trump's fault that the public reacted the way that they did. Most people were running around with like chickens with their heads cut off. Here in the Netherlands, where I was for most of that period of time, I saw all sorts of crazy shit. People masking outdoors. People, I saw one dude, he had like a cardboard box on his chest with a little, like a tube or something going to his mouth, which was covered in plastic. It was like a makeshift ventilation system, I'm assuming probably stuffed with cotton or some other filtration agent. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, this is a country that is much more reluctant to have hardline lockdownerism and travel restrictions as opposed to many states in the United States. So I can't even imagine how bad it got in some parts of the United States. As far as that goes, though, the basic premise is that 2024, they will intend to fortify. We got a forewarning of the fortification to come from Michael Bloomberg in the 2020 election. He openly stated weeks before the election, I talked about it at the time, he told you what was going to happen. On election night, it'll look like a red wave, but the next day, the mail-in ballots will start to trickle in. Some of that's been tempered at this point, but they are going to make an attempt. I think they're not convinced that they can do that, and that's exactly why they're trying to persecute Trump in the legal sense. I think that they're terrified that he'll win again, and they're so opposed to that concept that they're trying legal means that are very, very transparent in their both, well, illegality, ironically enough, number one, dubious claims, number two, number three, taking us beyond civic precedent that has stood for more than 2 centuries. If they're willing to do that, that doesn't show strength. You're not willing to rock the boat that much if you feel strong and you're like, yeah, we got this. Everything's perfectly fine. Trump can't possibly win again. He's toast. He lost the last time. He'll lose the next time. If they thought that, they would not be doing all of the things they're doing now. Do not be surprised, though, if in their legal haste they get bogged down, they're not successful, or they're less successful than they need to be. They can't disqualify him. Even if he is running from the Mar-a-Lago under house arrest, they will attempt to refortify the 2024 election. Absolutely. Let's see here. Just a second. New Deal wants every state to expand early voting and adopt no-excuse absentee voting. Note that 11 of the 15 states that require a reason to vote absentee are Republican-run, as well as automatically mail every voter a ballot without their solicitation. That is effectively adopting all-mail elections, something 8 states currently do, only one of which, Utah, is Republican-run. I would point out that the kind of so-called reforms that they want to put in place are generally not a thing in any other developed nation in the world. What they're trying to foist upon the American public is something that's not even done in 9/10 of the states that Bernie Sanders tells you that the United States should emulate. That should probably give you pause, and it should probably give you reason to oppose such measures. I certainly do. I think that voting should be in person only, with a few exceptions, if someone is overseas, a member of the military, a diplomat, or something like that. And it should require voter ID. These are common sense proposals that have been adopted by virtually the entire civilized world. They're not really positions that are extreme. They're not out there. Most of our allies do that. If anything, screwy elections of the sort that the far left wants are more reminiscent of Venezuela or something like that. Yeah, Brazil is a great example. Protestant. You are correct, sir. Brazil has a weird election system, which is why they're currently run by a socialist who will quickly sodomize the economy into the ground. Now we've got, I think this is the most interesting story of the day, but it's not the one that's big on people's minds, so I put it third. This is a Wall Street Journal opinion piece, and it was written by Mitt Romney. So you know that it's going to be a real winner. Donors don't fund the Trump plurality. As in 2016, Republican candidates won't drop out soon enough. Here's how to give them a push. Yes, Mitt Romney is saying to the Republican field, some of you need to drop out because otherwise Donald Trump will be renominated. He's very worried about this, you see, because he's a never-Trumper. He's also a uniparty stooge. He's really closer to the Democrats than, anything resembling conservatism anyway. We can tell this because Romney Care was the blueprint for Obamacare, among other things, which should still be gone after, but everyone has forgotten about that particular issue. Interesting how short people's attention spans are. And Mitt Romney's point, in theory, his point stands. The point is that if you don't want Trump to win, you need to narrow the field. Effectively, everyone else has to coalesce behind one or two other people maximum. I said early on, months and months ago, before people started crowding the field, in a packed race, Trump will run away with it. Mitt Romney is not fundamentally incorrect when he says this. The problem is that he doesn't understand the candidates. He doesn't understand why someone would run. Of course, he lost several times. He lost against Obama in the general, and Pryor had tried to run and lost in the primaries. I think that was 2008, and McCain beat him, or was it 2004? I can't remember which one. And or 2000. Mitt Romney ran before and he lost in the primaries. I think it was 2008, but in 2012, of course, he was nominated. He then showed great strategic genius during that election by effectively standing down for the last 6 weeks and virtually non-campaigning. He basically took lid day after lid day. He was a no-show for the last month and a half of that campaign season. Then Karl Rove, of course, was surprised when he lost and had a meltdown live on Fox, which I will never forget. Mitt Romney is not understanding a couple of important things. The first is that some of the people in the field are not in it to win it. If you think that Asa Hutchinson genuinely believes that he can win the Republican nomination, you're fooling yourself. He's going to hawk a book, or he's just looking to get on a debate stage and get some notoriety or something to that effect. Chris Christie does not want to win. He can push all the fat man bravado he wants. I can see through him instantaneously. Chris Christie is in that race also for other personal benefit. He is well aware of the fact that there are too many MAGA fans for him to win because he's alienated them. It's a two-man race. Trump v. DeSantis. The only other people in the field that have a reason other than personal benefit in the fiscal sense in mind are people like Ramaswamy who want to push in issues. You see there's like Andrew Yang in the Democratic primaries was the same. Andrew Yang wasn't in it necessarily just for a book deal. He wanted to push the concept of UBI and to launch sort of the prototypical platform of the no-labelers, which we'll be discussing later in terms of Joe Manchin, by the way. Lieberman is involved and certain others as well in bankrolling the endeavor. Andrew Yang was, Beto is a great example. Beto did mean to win the Senate seat against Ted Cruz, and he failed. When he ran thereafter for the gubernatorial slot, what was he doing? Guns bad, guns bad, guns bad. He wanted a career. He wants to be able to write a book or something like that, push a single issue off on the political party. Mitt Romney seems oblivious to the fact that that a supermajority of the candidates that are actually in the GOP field know that they can't win. They're doing one of those things. So why the hell would they drop out unless they run out of money? If you're in it for the money, as long as the donations come in, as long as the investors are on board, you're not going to drop. I do believe that the field will thin before Super Tuesday, but I don't think it'll thin quite that much. I think after Super Tuesday, Trump will have sealed the deal, and basically it'll be him running unopposed at that point. Until then, you're going to have a bunch of people in. And it wouldn't matter if literally everyone dropped out right now and endorsed DeSantis, for example, anyway. I have a feeling that a significant support of that remnant support would end up going to Trump in the end anyway. There is no other viable candidate other than possibly Vivek Ramaswamy, who seems to be pretty much aboard with Donald Trump. So why would he bother doing that? By the way, I have another prediction, and you'll never know whether I'm right or wrong. I think that one of the candidates in the field is a Confederate. I don't mean Confederate like Civil War Confederate. A Confederate is a term that's used in stage magic. The Confederate employed by Houdini or the local fakir is a person who's working with the magician to help do a trick. They seem to be randomly sampled out of the crowd when you say, oh, I need a volunteer to saw in half or something like that. And then everyone raises their hands because they're like, oh, this will be great. The Confederate is always the one that's chosen because they know how to contort themselves in the box and make it look like they're being sawn in half and shit like that. That's what happens. Donald Trump has a Confederate. I am 100% sure of this. One of the candidates is a Confederate. I know who it is, by the way. I can tell from their public statements, their posturing, and the ideology that they're pushing. I am very, very interested in knowing who people think I'm referring to. Is it Mike Pence, his former VP, Vivek Ramaswamy, the bootstrapper that constantly adulates him? Is it Ron DeSantis, the foe, the fake other guy? Is it Chris Christie, former campaign advisor, former debate advisor, and then trainer for Donald Trump, bringing the heat against Donald Trump while also smashing other Republicans? Could it be Nikki Haley, also appointed for a role? I am very interested in seeing who people think the Confederate is, but there is a 100% chance that at least one of the people in the field, I don't know if there are any others, one of the people there is a Confederate. They're working for Donald Trump. They've gotten into the race specifically to aid him. I am aware of who it is. I will see how many people get that right. It's actually obvious if you just watch the Iowa performance. I'm sort of giving it away because a couple people weren't on stage. It's one of the people that were in Iowa at the Tucker Carlson event. It's not Janet Yellen, Gizmoglass. She is not running for office. Most people seem to think that it's DeSantis or Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm not going to give you a yay or a nay, but I guarantee that you will, in the end, be able to guess who the person is. You'll have to wait till Super Tuesday. They're never going to admit to this plot, but it is happening. And it's a sly move by Donald Trump. Confederate Vivek, Confederate Fatty, Confederate DeSantis, Confederate Pence. So basically, you're telling me it could be any of those six. Now, it's not Felix, it's not Larry Elder. It's one of the people that was actually in Iowa. Actually, was Elder in the Iowa Tucker Carlson thing? I don't know. He's completely irrelevant, so nobody cares. But anyway, Mitt Romney has severe TDS, and what he's not understanding is that, number one, a lot of the people are in it for the money or the fame. They're not going to drop out unless the money runs shy, especially the former group. They're getting money, and that's their goal. Why the fuck would they drop out? If they've got enough money to keep going and they're just pushing a single issue, they wouldn't drop out either. Also, simple precedent. And Mitt Romney actually alludes to this in his own article, but is delusional. He thinks he's making the mistake that people made in 2016, the Never Trumpers. When Trump was killing it after Super Tuesday, there were increasing calls for Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and John Kasich to join forces. Presumptively, the leader, Ted Cruz, he's running. Marco Rubio drops, endorses Ted Cruz, gets promised a VP position. Kasich drops, endorses Ted Cruz / Rubio's campaign, and gets promised a cabinet position. Did it happen? Did it work, or did these egotists continue to fight one another, at least on paper? They continued to fight, especially those that are state level. I would note that a disproportionate number of the GOP candidates, they're not from Congress, they're not running from a non-political background, but like Vivek, a lot of them are executive level, like Ron DeSantis. He has everything to lose by dropping at all. He's not going to drop out. There are other executive figures that are in there as well. Chris Christie, former governor, he's an executive figure. He doesn't want to drop out, even though he's no longer an incumbent within politics itself. He wouldn't want to do that. And this is the Kasich effect all over again with DeSantis. And it's basically, this is the 2016 plot all over again. You've got your new Kasich, which in this case is DeSantis running second, and with the Kasich effect in effect. And then you have these cockamamie plans being dreamed up by the TDS sufferers about some sort of coalition of the willing, when most of them aren't willing to form a coalition. They all want to win, or they don't care if they win. They're hawking something. The field has a dozen people in it, Mitt. If all of them dropped and endorsed a singular candidate today, even if it was Ramaswamy, who is reasonably palatable and well-spoken, I don't think they can win. Trump is above 53%. He's got more than half of the vote solidified behind him. Trump has to do something crazy in order to lose the nomination. The only thing Mitt's counting on is the concept that Donald Trump is indicted again, and he falls from grace. Why would that happen? First indictment gave him 10 points in the aggregate. Second indictment didn't do anything. Why would I think anything about the third? If he's put in jail, it's going to look a little bit obvious to the GOP electorate that shenanigans are afoot, and they'll probably support him even more. So I don't think it's going to happen, Mitt. But then again, you're a two-time or maybe even three-time loser, so his strategic thinking maybe is not 100%. Plenty of super chats to go through, if I can find them all. Where are you? Jesse Owens, Sticks, have you heard about the White House sous chef that drowned near the Obama's property on Martha's Vineyard? Yes, in 8 feet of water. That should probably be looked into. I would note that if it were somebody who worked for Trump and died on the Mar-a-Lago property right now, Harry Sisson would be throwing a Sisson fit. Jim Morrison, want to stick it to Putin, increase domestic energy production? Absolutely. Want to reduce carbon dioxide? Plant some hemp, man, or plant a tree. Yeah, do it yourself. Government can't do it for you. They've shown themselves inept in everything they do for hundreds of years. Why would people trust them? Joe Hoffman, favorite drinks? Also, thanks for what you do. I've really gotten into elderflower tonic water with lime, actually. Mostly, though, I prefer to drink milk and coffee. Aussie's Robots, when you have an entire system in the West that sees their citizens as potential terrorists against their NWO agenda, you understand why they fear Trump and populism. Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's see. Over on Rumble, we also have some super chats as well. Anton hasn't shown up yet, I think. Sigilstone, never download the unofficial Fallout 4 patch. It makes arbitrary changes. The modder, Arthmore, is a piece of shit. Issues DMCAs against other patch compendiums that stole money to not make a game. I don't know. I don't see any problem with the patch. It seems it certainly removes the loading screen glitch. That alone makes it worth downloading. Wasted Bonehead, Sticks, the COVIDiots out Sleepy Joe into office. I say they give the entire world reparations for their shenanigans. I would support that. Swamp Donkey, Betta O'Cuck comes riding in on a skateboard. How do you feel, fellow kids? It's straight bussin', right, kiddos? Remember, guns are bad. Proceeds to mouth breathe incessantly. Also, no cap for real, and dab on him and all that stuff. That's Beto's personality in a nutshell. Bayonne 201, good morning from Gay, Stowe, Vermont. I have recently signed up for Match.com as I do not wish to spend the rest of my 30s alone. I'm a cute, gay, conservative, gun-toting guy. Should I just move to Texas? Yeah, probably. If you're from, I mean, and being gay part wouldn't be the problem in Vermont. The liking guns part would be, I guess, at this point. Ozzy's, I already read that one. You don't get a two for Ozzy, even if I like you. Wow, victory against the leftoids in Israel yesterday with the removal of the reasonableness clause. Yes, I talked about that this morning. The Supreme Court should not be a de facto ruler, completely ignoring the legislative branch and those who voted for them. Yes, I talked about the reasonableness clause this morning, which is a really kind of a weird quirk of the Israeli Supreme Court. Also, it exists in other countries, although not in the United States. And a follow-up. Also, most of the protests, which block roads, even emergency services, are the left's attempt to tyrannize the rest of the population into obedience. Yeah, I inferred that. Next news story. This is a little bit of a troublesome one. CEO of company that wants to scan your irises. Yeah, no thanks. World ID is coming, whether you like it or not. You will eat the bugs. You will sleep in the pod. Sam Altman and so forth getting into this. Alex Blania, CEO of WorldCoin, company that wants billions of people to scan their irises to create a global system of authentication, says that a global form of ID is coming, whether you like it or not. WorldCoin was co-founded by Sam Altman, who is also the CEO of OpenAI, the company behind the controversial large language model ChatGPT. The AI mogul previously stated his hopes for the technology to break capitalism by enabling the more efficient allocation of resources. Now, when people who want to destroy the free market and freedom of society are also saying that everyone should submit biometric data in order to use the internet effectively, I think that I'll say no to that. I think that sounds like a bad idea. It seems like these people are not in the same place as even the tech CEOs that built like the 90s and 2000s companies. A lot of them back then were effectively libertarian in their leanings, partially because they didn't want to pay more taxes, I think. And so they were very laissez-faire, and the internet was the Wild West. It is true that governments are attempting to force people more and more to connect their real-world identity with everything they do online. What this is an attempt to corporatize that, to create effectively a middleman between the government, which inevitably does want to do that, and the public. Why? For money. He is fundamentally correct when he says this. Governments will continue to push this basic concept, and unfortunately, in the end, a lot of people will roll over and obey such a system. They'll say, well, I can't do my job without this. I have no choice but to scan my iris and give my thumbprints and a DNA sample, etc., and it'll go from there. A stool sample, maybe, dick pics, vagina selfies. A lot of people would be willing in the end to do that. They don't have a concept of privacy. It's rather sad, actually. That being said, the corporate side of it is an attempt to create a middleman intermediary. Sort of like with Facebook and LibreCoin. They realized that CBDC would be something that was going to be eventually pushed by the US government. They attempted to maneuver themselves into a situation where, well, now Meta could profit off of that. That's exactly what WorldCoin is attempting to do. Do not scan your irises to use any online application. The only way to fight back against this sort of thing is for literally nobody to use it. Don't attempt to hate use it or anything like that. I guess fake irises would become a thing at some point, which would actually be funny and probably could be 3D printed, which is perhaps ironic. Yeah, this contact lens will make your iris look totally different. You can access the internet without giving all of your data to Big Brother through ChatGPT or OpenAI or whatever. I don't think that that's a good idea, though. I think it's generally a good idea to keep your privacy intact, what little of it is actually left anyway. And that is very little, unfortunately, in the digital era. Spike 11117. Today, France PMI falls to recession levels. The UK is next, then America officially. Also, how long will Macron last? Well, Macron can always declare himself dictator. He doesn't seem to face any particular repercussions for his actions at the judiciary level, so I guess he can basically do whatever the hell he wants. He's sort of a dictator light already. There he is. King of Biltong. Good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Remember your free shipping on landofbiltong.com and antonusa.com for your biltong. Clank, hashtag Clank Nation. He keeps getting clanker visitors at his outlet there in Roanoke, so I guess it's some good stuff. By the way, before I continue on to the next couple of stories, I would like to remind you, in fact, I'll grab the link here and just fucking post it in chat too. Posted in link in the description as well as at the top on YouTube, and I'm about to post it on both platforms, and I think it'll go through to Twitter as well. Not 1,000% sure about that, but I'm going to try. That is a link to my new booklet. It's called Orange Man Big Part 2, Volume 2 rather. It is a spin-off of the first volume, which did so well, and over 1,000 people bought copies of it, so I figured it was probably a good idea to make a second because half of them were demanding a sequel. I'm thinking about making a third one actually now. I did have a few story ideas that I cut from number 2. It's 51 pages long, and it ridicules the far left and talks about their bizarre, psychologically projective fantasies about Donald Trump, and then they encounter the Big Don himself and generally end up peeing themselves or depraving themselves in some way. There's a man named Mitt, by the way. We were talking about his totally unrelated real-world counterpart, Mitt Romney, earlier, who ends up, Donald Trump goes to a rally, gets piss thrown on him by a leftist and has to borrow his shower. Then Mitt Romney cleans the drain by chewing and eating the hair like it was spaghetti. This is the sort of sense of humor that I have. So if you enjoy that sort of thing or political satire in general, or you just want to get a copy because it's cool and definitely something to put in the den as a conversation piece, you should definitely grab a copy. Again, the link is posted. President Irina Vladimirovna Putina. Okay, Sticks, I'm finally going to actually ask, what's a biltong? It's sort of like beef jerky, although it's made differently. I think it can also be made with water buffalo. I think I had water buffalo biltong or jerky, some equivalent, years and years ago. Anthony Myers, love the bird of paradise. How do you care for it? I've never had a bird of paradise, actually. Do you mean one of the plants behind me? That's just an orchid. And that's like, I don't know, some sort of tropical plant. I don't even 100% know. But no, I do not have a bird of paradise. Let's see. Sigil Stone, world ID is coming whether you like it or not. And I'm sure this is this is a threat to our democracy people will be sounding off soon. I'm waiting. It is a threat to our democracy, absolutely. Next news story. I wanted to give some advice here. Woman found dead on Montana trail following apparent bear encounter, wildlife officials say. A portion of the Custer-Gallatin National Forest in Montana is closed after a woman was found dead following an apparent bear encounter, wildlife officials said. Grizzly bear tracks were found near the woman's body, which was discovered Saturday on the Buttermilk Trail west of town in West Yellowstone, Montana, Fish, Wildlife, and Parks said in a statement. I wanted to point something out. Depending on what part of the United States you're in, there are different tactics you should use if you're attacked by a bear, and this has been pointed out by bear experts. But a lot of people seem not to understand this. If you're attacked by a grizzly bear, you might as well just lay down and play dead because there's no way that you can effectively fight back unless you have, a firearm that's capable of bringing down a grizzly bear. No, that doesn't mean, by the way, a 22 or something like that. It doesn't mean an AR-15 either, unfortunately. So you get attacked by one of those, you're probably dead if it intends to predate upon you. So just play dead and hope that it was an attack that was provoked by it perceiving you as a threat. You wandered too close to its food that it just ate. You wandered too close to its den. You wandered too close to its cubs or something. With black bears, it's different. A human can feasibly fend off a black bear attack if armed with a club or something like that. With black bears, I was always told as a kid you're supposed to play dead if you're attacked by a bear, but that advice only holds true for the grizzly. If you're attacked by a black bear, unless you are quite diminutive, you actually have a chance, and it is more likely to attack you in a predatory stance anyway, which means it's less likely to leave you alone if you play dead. At least apparently, this is what the experts say. So go for the nose, smash it in the nose with a wooden club, and it might stagger the bear. You can go for the eyes, although it's close enough to the mouth that might not always be feasible. Yeah, stab it, beat it in the face or something like that. Wrestle it to the ground like I don't know, one of those pioneer characters from the 1800s. You're probably still going to be killed if it decides to predate, but you stand a chance. With a grizzly, you don't stand a chance. Even a small grizzly bear, there's too much fat, there's too much muscle. and it'll probably, you know, rip your throat out. You will, by the way, unfortunately, probably see your entrails being pulled out of your body as you die. So it's not necessarily the best way to go. By the way, on related bear news, actually, the Warwick family from England, my forebears, the original Warwick was Morvidus, and he was known for beating a bear with a ragged staff is what it's generally referred to, but it really looks more like a small tree trunk that had been dried in the sun or something. Beat the bear over the head and then chained it to a tree. And thus the Warwick family came to be with Morvidus, who later on, I think, got killed by a sea monster, if I remember correctly, or something to that effect. Anyway, the Patriot Cairo. Recent systematic review scrubbed from medical journals in 24 hours showing 74% of 325 autopsies showed cardiac organ failure after getting honk honk. Yeah, we can't say the last part. We definitely have to say honk honk. Andy Slater Drums sent $2. No comment. Thank you. Bara, there are plenty of biltong videos on YouTube. Yeah, I might as well check one of those out at some point. Ozzy's Robots. I have a few grizzly bear shorts posted for your information. I wouldn't want to mess with a grizzly bear. At least with a black bear, there's a possibility. Yeah, grizzly, you might as well begin praying and be in the right position, laying on the ground. So, Beagle Cake. Morning, everyone. Sticks failed my DMV knowledge test twice. Any words of encouragement? Thank you. I failed my DMV knowledge exam the first time by a single question and got it on the second try. Just study a little bit harder. You'll get it eventually, and it doesn't really matter. You're just going to have to pay the government more money. King of Biltong. Biltong is closer to prosciutto. It is cured, then air-dried aged meat. Normally beef, but works well with many types of game. Kudu is popular, but something like hog is not. Also no sheep, goat, etc. Oh, okay. Jolly Roger 183 for bears. If it's brown, lay down. If it's black, fight back. If it's white, good night. Yeah, with a polar bear, laying down's not going to work either. So if you're up in Nunavut or something like that, and you might as well just offer it your throat so that, you die a little bit quicker because you're dead. Ozzy's Robots. Doesn't the grizzly super chat you? Why kill him? Wasted Bonehead. Styx's legendary ancestor proves his divine right to rule. All hail the King of Clank. Yes, Morvidus beat the shit out of that bear, which was presumably a black bear. This is in Britain, with a tree trunk. This is actually, the resemblance of it looks vaguely similar to the staff that I have back in Rutland, which actually is a tree trunk with a part of the root system. And it had been drying out on the cobbles out behind by the little stream there for, I don't know, probably months or something. Is all bleached. Very hardened wood. I wine stained it too. I think that it looks good. Still there. Couldn't ship it over here. It's a little bit big to fit on an airplane. I don't think that they would very much like that to have a 7-foot-long wooden staff on the airplane anyway. Opinionated Junkie. Polar bear is reverse Oreo. Yeah. Yeah, if you're using a 5.56 against a grizzly bear, I mean, if you shot it right in the eye, I suppose it could penetrate into its skull probably and kill it. But, yeah, it's not necessarily the most likely hit in the world, so you might want something bigger. With a black bear, I don't think that a 5.56 works with black bear either. I mean, you're not even supposed to use it for deer in a lot of places. You need something bigger. 308, I think, will take down a black bear. Ice Mexican, never watched your content before, but you are familiar to me. Were you a part of atheist versus creationist community? Your head shape is admirably slim. Well, thank you for that. Yes, actually, many, many, many years ago, I spent a lot of time debating creationists. And I don't know about a community, but in the early days of YouTube, definitely, I mean, at the time, I was more of a hardline atheist. These days, I'm an apatheist. I stopped caring about that question. I'm still irreligious, in fact, anti-religious. Organized religion, I still believe, is a cancer. But I am spiritual. I think that it's fine if others are. It's just the concept of an organized church. It's always misused. You end up with child molestation cases or people begging for money or something like that. Next news story. Republicans want child tax credit for unborn babies in massive federal family care overhaul. This is, by the way to do it. If you oppose abortion, attempt to incentivize people not to abort, because you're not going to be able to stop it from happening because pennyroyal and cohosh exist, international travel exists, interstate travel exists. So, it's a lost cause as far as that's concerned. You're not going to get your way. But you can incentivize people. One of the main reasons for abortion in the elective sense is that somebody is destitute. They get knocked up, but they don't really have any money. They're already on the edge of being homeless or something. If you give them a tax credit, that could help. Yeah, maybe they don't abort. And then you have another child that can be, the Republicans want another child. They'll be drawing welfare. Okay, whatever. Well, we won't get into a moral argument about that. By expanding, I'll just read this verbatim partially. Republicans are mounting their own effort in an expanded child tax credit that includes applying the credit to fetuses in the womb. Representative Ashley Hinson, R., Iowa, is leading the package of bills in the House called Providing for Life Act, an ambitious attempt at overhauling the federal government's family care system. Hinson told Fox News Digital her legislation charts the policy course for a culture of life in America. I have no problem with this. By expanding the child tax credit to include the unborn and providing additional support to working families, empowering women to care for their babies regardless of socioeconomic status or zip code, and improving access to community resources, we can make a meaningful difference for those in need. Yeah, the Republicans are actually championing what effectively is welfare, and it's one of the few forms of it that really makes sense. If you want to have Americans, native-born Americans, breed more, you got to give them relief. Well, Trump doubled the child tax credit. It was such a wildly popular idea that Biden took that doubling, front-ended it. He didn't expand it. He just front-ended it and then took credit for it. Now the Republicans, the ball is back in their court. They're trying to give up to a $3,500 cap for kids under 5 and $4,500 for kids ages 6 to 17. So it means if you've got a standard middle-class household and you have 3 kids, you probably don't pay any fucking taxes anymore. Yeah, that's helpful. The less taxes people can pay, the goddamn better. Hell, the tax rate should be reduced by about 50% at a bare minimum anyway. I would pay for that by cutting a bunch of bureaucrats and pork from the military, but the Republicans have a slightly different opinion about how to use that welfare money. Wow, you missed my capitalism book question, Super Chat. I am sorry about that. Oh, there's a bunch there. Shit. Sometimes I have a feeling that the Super Chats, I don't see it. Sometimes I have a feeling that they come and go and disappear here on StreamYard. My apologies. Michael Cricklow, Black Bear Lives Matter. Andy Slater, drums. Did you know there's a direct correlation between the decline of the Spire graph and the increase in gang activity? Think about it. Interesting. President Irina Vladimirovna Putina. Thanks to my father's genetics, my muscles grow very quickly. While I don't think I could take out a bear yet, my dream is being like those stereotypical Russian bear wrestlers. Lol. Defying the meta. 44 mag for bear. Yeah, I think that would probably do it with the black bear. I don't know about a grizzly bear, though. Polyd F3 sent $5. No super chat. Thank you. Mike B270. Elon to use Twitter to train his XAI. Oh, interesting. A drunk changeling. I want to see Styx's hard wood. Polly F3. Knock, knock. Who's there? John Durham. John Durham who? Sorry for the disturbance. You have yourself a pleasant day, sir. Yeah. Marley Dill sent $5. No comment. Thank you very much. By the way, please send no more super chats. I've got one more to go through, and we're going up on 50 minutes here. So, Beyond 201. One of my coworkers at the Alchemist in Stowe said he went to UVM with you. When I showed him your videos, he exclaimed, "Tarl!" He said he used to smoke cigs in your leather jackets. Hashtag Clank Nation. I was probably smoking weed, actually, at that point. I don't think I was smoking cigarettes at UVM. Wait, actually, yeah, for a while I think I did. It's possible. Interesting. Mainly I was smoking weed when I was at Groovy UV. Smoking the hash, man. Get a little bit of meth in there. Gotta get a little bit of meth in my head, man. I never did meth. Yeah, no, so it's possible. Yeah, possibly true. Fact check, unproven. And then the final news story here. Manchin's No Labels party could backfire. Does America need another ego? Yes, indeed. It's very, very funny that you would say that Joe Manchin's effort, assuming that he became a presidential candidate under a third-party run. How can it backfire is my question. This is from Unheard. Now, they're trying to prop up Biden, of course, necessarily. How can it backfire when he has no further career in West Virginia? He destroyed that. by siding with Biden, ironically enough. He has reason to try to get back at Biden for throwing him under the bus, maybe too. In West Virginia, he was relatively popular, sitting senator. He was guaranteed re-election. And he promised the people of West Virginia he would not kowtow before the infrastructure bill because it was too expensive. At the 11th hour, though, after several months of behind closed doors negotiation with Biden, he put in a few meaningless reductions to the size and scope and added a little bit of pork barrel for West Virginia, and then came out proclaiming credit for it. And he acted as though he was going to get kudos for it. He since has fallen 50 points beyond. This is an incumbent senator, formerly fairly high in the polling, 50 points behind the current sitting governor of the state. He's lost the job. He doesn't have anywhere to go but down if he doesn't run for the presidency. The irony is that Joe Manchin getting fucked by his own party members in West Virginia partially, and by the GOP there, ironically enough, because he needed GOP votes to win in a state that red. They may force him into a situation where he robs a couple of points from Joe Biden, ensuring Trump's reelection bid from the Mar-a-Lago retreat where he might be under house arrest. That may be our fate as a nation in the coming election. I just wanted to point out how funny that was and how funny it is that somebody would claim that Joe Manchin's attempt could backfire. There's nothing to salvage. There's nothing to save. He's lost his political career. Again, he's at a 50-point deficit against his likely opponent. And by the way, if it was, what's his name there, Maloney, the House member who originally was running, he would lose against him too by double digits. So if I'm Joe Manchin, I'd probably run. Yeah, I would run as a no-labeler if I were him. You've got the name recognition. You've got the capability of forming a coalition. You can drag people out of both parties, potentially, more out of the Dems, but some out of the Republicans as well. I don't think any core MAGA fans would vote for him after his shenanigans, but certainly some TDS sufferers perhaps that wouldn't vote for Trump anyway. So don't blame Manchin if he does get in and Trump loses. Don't think that's likely, but it's a possibility. Don't blame Manchin for that. I think he'd be more likely to drain 2-1 from Biden, and it'd be hilarious. Stormblood 20, Alaskan guys carry 10 millimeter and 44 Magnum. AP1 S2K, AK or AR. By the way, 1 year sober. Congratulations to you. If I was going to buy one of the, intermediate caliber sporting rifles, it'd probably be the AR because it's made in the USA, as opposed to the Ruski weapon. Although AKs are pretty cool. They're aesthetically pleasing. Joe, Twitter should have been renamed Public Square. That would be a little bit too obtuse, though. That's the problem. Let's see here. Anyway, I think that I'm going to go offline now. I thank you to all the people who showed up. Almost 4,500 people at peak. Keep in mind, again, there is a link to my new Orange Man Big Volume 2 pinned at the top in chat if you're watching on YouTube, and also cross-platform. It's in the description. I will post it one more time for those that didn't see it before, and maybe you're on mobile and you can't see it at the top or something like that. So I'm just going to do that. I keep hearing that Ghost wants to debate me or something like that. Well, it's news to me. First he wanted to chat with me, and then he wanted to debate me. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Anyway, I will go offline now, and I'll be back tomorrow with another slurry of probably crazy news. We're also on indictment watch right now, so that may be the big news for tomorrow. Also, I really want to cook Indian food later, so I got to go to the store. That's about all.